everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in today because we are looking at something so unexpectedly fascinating. We're exploring a massive web directory, the World Islamic Prayer Timetable. Now, I know you might be thinking, on the surface, a table time? It just looks like a standard grid of numbers. But what we're actually decoding today is this incredible digital map, one that connects a deeply personal, ancient daily routine right to our highly modern, globally connected world. We're going to see exactly how data, geography, and astronomy all intersect perfectly in one absolutely exhaustive list. Okay, let's dive into this. Right off the bat, the directory throws this extreme geographical edge case at you. Think about this. How in the world you calculate the dawn prayer, Fajr, for a place like Bouvet Island? Now, if you haven't heard of Bouvet Island, it is widely considered one of the most remote, practically uninhabited islands on the planet. It's just sitting down there, freezing, in the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean. And yet there it is. It's right there in the database. I mean, why does a frozen rock even need a prayer schedule? Well, to really grasp the sheer scale of this directory, we have to first understand what exactly is being tracked here. Before we get totally lost in this massive list of countries and obscure islands, we've got to look at the core data itself. You see, this directory isn't just updating once a year and calling it a day. It is tracking a highly precise daily schedule, and it's doing it for every single city in every single territory worldwide. The data has to update every day because it relies entirely on the position of the sun. It's literally tracking the exact angle of twilight as our Earth tilts and rotates, day by day. And that brings us to the chronological flow that dictates the daily rhythm for millions of people around the globe. The database calculates 5 highly specific times every single day. You've got Fajr at dawn, Dhuhr at midday, Asr in the afternoon, Maghrib at sunset, and finally Isha at night. This sequence, it's like a constant, steady drumbeat. But here's the catch. Translating that universal rhythm down to a specific localized minute, that requires incredibly precise math, and it entirely depends on exactly where you're standing on the planet at any given moment. Now, what's really interesting about this is that to get those 5 daily times right across the entire globe, you obviously can't just use a simple stopwatch. You actually need a massive infrastructure of mathematical and astronomical calculations working constantly behind the scenes. The directory doesn't just, take a wild guess. It relies on high-level institutional math to basically track the cosmos and translate all of that vastness directly to your local zip code. And because the world is so huge, a single mathematical formula just doesn't work perfectly everywhere. I mean, a twilight angle up in Canada looks vastly different than one down in Saudi Arabia. So the system dynamically pulls from diverse, internationally recognized institutions based on the region. You've got ISNA for North America, Al Qura covering the Arabian Peninsula, and Karachi handling South Asia, each one calculating their own highly specific regional standard. Then, the Muslim World League provides this overarching international baseline. The system dynamically stitches all these complex standards together to output precise times, no matter what continent you're on. In fact, the source explicitly states that the schedules are, quote, calculated using internationally recognized astronomical methods. I just want us to pause for a second and really appreciate the monumental institutional effort required to make this happen. You literally have astronomers and mathematicians working to pull the massive, sweeping mechanics of the solar system down into a seemingly simple, localized daily schedule. A schedule someone can just casually glance at on their smartphone. It is an absolutely brilliant feat of data processing. All right, so we know how the cosmos are being calculated, but let's shift gears for a minute and look at the human element. Where are people actually searching for this data the most? Having a massive database is great and all, but looking at user behavior tells us a whole lot about global demographics. The source directory helpfully outlines its most popular, highly searched destinations, and the results are pretty telling. First up, we see the very logical search hubs. The top Muslim-majority countries drawing traffic include places like Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Nigeria, and Egypt. And this makes perfect sense, right? These are massive, globally active populations checking their daily routines. When you have hundreds of millions of people who need to know the exact minute of sunset for Maghrib, these huge population centers are naturally going to rise right to the very top of the search data. But here is where the data tells an even richer story. If you look really closely at that popular list, sitting right alongside those traditional hubs like Pakistan and Egypt, the directory explicitly includes the United Kingdom and the United States. I love this because it perfectly captures the truly global nature of this digital community. It's not geographically isolated at all. It is a worldwide diaspora, and they are all relying on the exact same centralized data hub to maintain their daily practices, whether they happen to be waking up in Cairo or commuting in Chicago. Now, while those are obviously the top searched areas, the directory absolutely does not stop at just the popular destinations. It actually makes a pretty bold promise to provide accurate prayer times for literally every single country in the world, straight from A to Z. And trust me, when they say every country, they mean every conceivable patch of land on Earth. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer ambition of the database. It's staggering. You have these heavily populated hubs like Indonesia and Nigeria, which we were just talking about, sitting in the exact same directory alongside some of the most incredibly remote corners of the planet. Places like Svalbard, way up in the freezing Arctic Ocean, or Christmas Island. The algorithm? It totally doesn't care if there are 200 million people living there or just 2 people. The math runs equally flawlessly for both. Being a bit of a data detective myself, I just had to linger on the vastness of this A to Z list in the source. It is truly a marvel. You can find prayer times for the British Indian Ocean Territory, the French Southern Territories, the Pitcairn Islands, Wallis and Futuna, and yes, bringing it all the way back to our initial hook, the uninhabited frozen Bouvet Island. They literally left no stone unturned, even if that stone is completely covered in ice and thousands of miles away from civilization. Now, as you can imagine, with any database of this massive, global scale, things can get a little quirky. And as we move through that incredible A to Z list, there is a really curious anomaly in the dataset that injects a fun bit of reality into the world of global database management. 37. That is the exact number of times the phrase flag not available appears interspersed throughout the directory's A to Z list. So instead of rendering a neat little country icon, the system essentially just throws its hands up in the air and displays this plain text. And you might expect a missing flag for some super obscure, tiny territory, right? But inexplicably, the system also completely drops the ball for Afghanistan, Switzerland, Vatican City, and even the United Kingdom, one of the most popular, highly searched destinations on the entire site, and the database just couldn't find the image file? So flag not available playfully becomes this totally unintentional recurring motif of the timetable. Honestly, it's a great grounded reminder that behind all these flawless astronomical calculations tracking the sun's exact position across the solar system, there is still a stressed out web developer somewhere just dealing with broken image links. So, as we bring this all together, going from the funny micro details of missing images all the way out to the macro scale of planetary mathematics, what are we actually left with? We're left with a directory that beautifully links a deeply personal daily routine to the actual physical mechanics of the Earth itself, across every single landmass. It's this incredible digital bridge between faith, astronomy, and modern technology. So, the crucial point is this. We live in a world where a single daily ritual unites millions, seamlessly bridging a bustling metropolis in the UK with the impossibly remote islands of Wallis and Futuna. The sun rises, the database calculates, and the global rhythm continues without missing a beat. It really makes you wonder how many other quiet digital networks are out there, keeping our global traditions alive right now. Thanks so much for learning with me today on The Explainer, and as always, keep exploring.